City of Northglenn, Channel 8, keeping you informed of events in your community.
Study session meeting of September the 23rd, 2019 to order. Joanna, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Escobar.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Leidy.
Here.
Councilmember Sowers.
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember Downing.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Whitman.
Here.
Councilmember Duran-Mullica will be absent. Councilmember Wilford.
Here.
The only thing on the agenda tonight on this study session is the 2019 resident survey result. City Manager Gara, would you introduce the item?
Thank you, Mayor Escobar. This evening we have Lori Urban, who you've previously met, to go ahead and debrief the resident survey results for us this evening. As you see in the staff memorandum, we've outlined the percentage response rate, which is 18%. That was a little bit lower than I had hoped for, but Lori can explain more about what that means and what we can do moving forward with the next survey. Additionally, I also on page 2 have some next steps included for council's consideration of things we can do to help get the word out about what feedback we did hear from those who responded to the resident survey, and then how we can have additional discussion if there's specific areas that council would like to discuss in terms of how we move the needle on those specific operational areas. And with that, I'll turn it over to Lori, invite her to come up and go ahead and walk you through the presentation she's prepared this evening.
Heather, the second page you talked about, where is that?
The second page of the staff memo under communication of results to community, there's several bulleted points there.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Is the presentation somewhere? Just so I know that I'm following along with them.
Yes.
Here. Survey.
Clicker.
Right here.
Alrighty. Sure. Well, I'll go ahead and start talking. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah? Great. Well, good evening, Mayor Escobar, members of the council. Thanks so much for having me here again to talk with you about the results to the 2019 resident survey. I want to thank Heather for all of her help with this project. I know that she's a very busy lady, and this is an important undertaking for the city and for the community, and her help has been really invaluable throughout the process. It's a lot of work on the startup, and hopefully she gave great guidance in asking the right questions that are going to get you some data that you can use for your planning and budgeting purposes. Pardon me. Surveys about this, surveys like this are about accountability and transparency, and the city has already taken steps in the right direction, having conducted the survey before. So once in 2006 and again in 2011. So you're starting to build that trend line, and we finally have kind of line charts in the report so that you can see how your trends are moving. But it's a great way for you to track your performance over time, both as council and your performance, as well as the services that the city delivers to residents. So this presentation kind of focuses on the key findings delivered in the executive summary in the report. There's a wealth of data in that almost 200-page report that you have, but the presentation tonight is just going to kind of go over those key findings that we thought were notable and that we should highlight for you all. I'm happy to answer any questions as I go. If you prefer to hold them to the end, that's fine with me as well. We kind of talked a little bit about this, but surveys like this are great tools to get a pulse of the community. What do residents think about how you're doing, about how the services are being delivered? You can track your performance over time and see how residents feel about how you're doing over time. You can use these survey results to inform your strategic planning or budgeting purposes. And NRC also provides you with benchmark comparisons so that you can see how Northglenn is doing compared to other communities, not only across the country, but in the Front Range as well. For this survey, as we did in 2011, we use industry best practices to administer Northglenn survey. We randomly select households based on comprehensive lists provided by the United States Postal Service. We randomly select households from that list. We oversample multifamily housing units because we know that the people who live in those units, those who are younger, those who tend to be lower income, respond to surveys at lower rates. So we want to make sure that we give them representation from the get-go, so we oversample those households for the mailings. We generally provide multiple contacts. Our standard is 3 for your survey. We also sent out a reminder postcard to help boost response. Increased contacts increases response rate. We also weight the survey data. So when we get the data back, we look at who responded, the profile of those respondents, and we compare that to either the most recent census or the most recent American Community Survey data to make sure that who we heard from represents as closely as possible all the adults we know that live in your community. So for your 2019 survey, we mailed to 4,000 households. We sent out those 4 contacts, a pre-notification postcard, 2 waves of the survey, and a reminder postcard over the course of 4 to 5 weeks. We heard back from 684 residents. About 140 of those were completed online, which is about what we would see. As Heather mentioned, that's an 18% response rate, which is slightly lower than what we see, but not out of the realm and what I would expect for the community and the demographics of this community of a very large multifamily population, large Hispanic population, a lot of younger people here, and those are the people that just are really hard to get to respond to surveys no matter what we do. But we can definitely talk about different tactics that can be used in the future. So that 684 responses provides a 4% margin of error. Oh, yes.
Sorry, quick question. Was this in only English or did you do bilingual as well?
It was only in English.
Online as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
So that 4% margin of error means that around any given percent that we have for the results, if we had surveyed everyone, we would see that the response would be plus or minus 4% of, say, 80%. We would either see it be between 84% or 76%. That's a decent margin of error. Industry standard is plus or minus 5%. We also, as I just mentioned, we had the survey available to be responded to online for those who received the mailings. And we provided the city with both national and Front Range benchmark comparisons, as well as comparisons to your trends over time. We also separately conducted what we call an open participation or opt-in survey, and this is for anyone who wants to take the survey can complete it. The city publicized the survey via different avenues. It was released well after the data collection for the random sample survey had been released so that we didn't confuse those who were taking the mailed survey or asked to take the mailed survey so that they would complete that survey as opposed to the one they could easily just click on online when they saw it. Those results are presented separately in your report in Appendixes D and E, and you can see how residents who responded to the open participation survey answered the questions differently than those from the random sample mail survey. One other thing to note is that when we're looking at results compared to 2011, the margin of error that we use there to denote statistically significant differences would be plus or minus 6 percentage points. So we highlighted 5 key findings in the executive summary, and we're just going to go through each of those to talk about the kind of results that support these findings. And first, we indicated that residents generally are happy with their quality of life here in Northglenn, and they're pretty optimistic about it improving over the next few years. About 7 in 10 gave excellent or good reviews to their overall quality of life, which is similar to what we've seen in prior survey years and was similar to both the national and the Front Range comparisons. We asked a new question that hadn't been asked on the prior surveys about if residents felt their quality of life would improve, stay the same, or decline over the next 5 years, and a majority felt that their quality of life would improve. Most residents gave positive reviews to different aspects of quality of life. The city as a place to live, place to raise children, their neighborhood is a place to live. Most ratings remained stable over time. However, we did see a few increases. The city as a place to live and as a place to work, which is not, does not appear on the slide, both saw increases from 2011 to 2019. And place to work, which had about 54% excellent or good this year, that increased 16 points from 2011. Place to raise children also is trending up since 2006, and evaluations tended to be similar to both the national and Front Range benchmarks. 83% of residents said that they would be likely to recommend living in North Glen, as well as remain in North Glen for the next 5 years. And this is similar to 2011 ratings, as well as to both benchmark groups. We also asked, not shown on the slide here, but what residents, what were the reasons for living in the city? They could select any of the options that we provided to them. The most frequently selected options were the location, neighborhoods, and safety. Each of those were selected by at least a third or more of respondents. We asked respondents to evaluate 24 different aspects or characteristics of the community. Ratings range from 75% excellent or good to 30% excellent or good for availability of affordable quality child care. They tended to remain stable over time for most of those 26 ratings. However, the ones shown here on the slide are ones where we saw significant increases or decreases in those ratings. Most notable is employment opportunities increased 26% from 2011. Shopping opportunities also increased 11% from 2011. When we compared the community characteristics to the benchmarks, we saw mostly ratings that were similar. There were 4 that received ratings that were lower than the national benchmark. That was affordability of quality child care, affordability of quality health care, air quality, and the natural environment. Similarly, for the Front Range, we saw the majority of those characteristics of the community being rated similarly in North Glen. However, we did see one that received ratings that were higher, which was availability of affordable quality housing. So overall, residents are pleased with the services that the City of North Glen provides, but there were a few opportunities for some improvements. 3/4 gave excellent or good reviews to the overall quality of services provided by North Glen. This was the first time this item was asked, so we don't have a trend comparison available, and this rating was similar to both set of benchmark peer groups. Respondents also evaluated 26 different services provided by the city. Excuse me, 18 were given excellent or good reviews by 60% or more of respondents, and those that were rated the highest were garbage collection and recycling, policing services, police response time to emergency calls, and maintenance of city parks. When these individual services were compared to the national benchmarks, all of them, 22 of them could be compared, and all of those were similar, which provides a really good perspective about how you're doing compared to other peers nationally. Often a better comparison, if you have it, is to yourself over time, and most of your service ratings were stable compared to 2011. We did see a few significant changes. 5 services actually saw an increase in ratings: recycling, animal control, building permits, crime prevention, and land use planning and zoning all increased from 2016 to 2019, 3 services saw a decline in ratings, and that was services and programs for seniors, recreation facilities, and municipal courts. Compared to the Front Range benchmarks, those 22 services fared similarly. Ratings that North Glen residents gave were similar to those in other Front Range communities. One did receive lower ratings, and that was recreation facilities. So sometimes it's helpful in order to help focus and put things in perspectives to have residents evaluate the importance of services, because obviously some services are going to be viewed as less important to residents or more important, and it's helpful to see how those importance ratings align with their ratings of quality for those same services, so that you can see where there are disparities and where there may be opportunities for the city to make improvements to help residents have a higher quality of life or a greater satisfaction with city services. So the ones to kind of focus on are those that were deemed higher in importance and lower in quality, and that's that upper left-hand quadrant there. So focusing on making changes to or improvements, and sometimes that can simply be communication. Sometimes residents' perceptions, this is a perception survey, sometimes residents' perceptions about certain services are different than what they are in reality. For example, yes, I'm sorry.
No, keep talking.
Okay.
Sorry.
For example, if crime prevention is viewed as lower quality, maybe residents just don't understand what the city is doing for all of the aspects of crime prevention. So getting the word out about how the city is preventing crime using these different kinds of avenues would be helpful in changing their perception of that service.
Sorry.
Yes.
I love this table. It is just such a nice way to summarize all the information in this 200 pages. But what I find so interesting is it does mirror what I'm hearing from residents as things that they are excited about and things they're concerned about. So the information was a little validating, but I really like how it's presented. So thank you.
That's great.
That table.
And I should note the recreation facilities is highlighted red because it was a service that not only falls into this higher importance, lower quality quadrant, it also saw a decline over time, and it was lower than both benchmark comparisons, but I understand that the city is making strides toward improving that, so maybe in 2 years we'll see a big improvement, and that one will be in a different category. So the next key finding that we saw in the results was that the government performance ratings continued to be strong, and we saw several increases. Half to 3/4 of residents gave excellent or good reviews to different aspects of government performance. 7 and 10 rated the overall government performance as excellent or good. The overall direction the city is taking increased by 17% from 2011 to 2019. And other ratings tended to be similar to 2011. Additionally, where there were comparisons to the national and Front Range benchmarks, for which I think there were maybe 4 or 5, those ratings tended to be similar to both comparison groups.
Was there a breakdown or anything for that last one on there? Value of services for taxes paid?
Is there a breakdown?
I couldn't make it through the survey.
Oh, yeah.
I kept getting distracted and starting over. So I'm wondering on that one, how do we dig into it deeper, I think is the question. How do we find out what value of services that they pay for that they don't feel that we're doing our best?
That's a really good question, and we could run some crosstabs of that question by the various quality of various services. We do have crosstabs by different demographics of respondents as well as by ward in the appendices, so you can look how different groups of people and people who live in different areas of the community feel about that specific item. We don't go into any kind of detail about what that might include, but we could do some additional cross tabulations to look at, what services may influence that particular rating. Other than that, additional research would need to be done if you want to specifically ask people, what are you thinking about when you rate this question? What service comes to mind that maybe you feel like you aren't getting the best value for?
To me, that's one of the most important questions that we've seen so far. You know what I mean? If our residents don't feel that they're getting the value of services for what they're paying in their taxes, that's concerning to me. Thank you.
Sure. City employees also were rated favorably. About 4 in 10 residents reported having contact with a city employee in the 12 months prior to the survey. And those who reported having contact were asked to evaluate different aspects of their interaction with that employee. At least 3/4 gave excellent or good reviews to each of the aspects that we asked them to evaluate: their courtesy, knowledge, responsiveness, making you feel valued, and their overall impression. The one shown here on the slide increased from 2011 to 2019. Residents feel safe in North Glen and prioritize surveillance cameras and additional training for officers for the police department. So new in 2019, we asked how safe residents felt in different areas within the community, and most tended to feel safe, with at least 7 in 10 giving very safe, saying that they feel very safe or somewhat safe in each of these areas. There is a midpoint on that scale, neither safe nor unsafe. So the opposite, 3 in 10, for example, for on the trails doesn't mean that 3 in 10 felt unsafe. Actually, less than 15% felt unsafe in any of these areas in the community. 3 items could be compared to the benchmark comparison: safety in parks and playgrounds, and retail and commercial areas were similar to the national and front range benchmarks, whereas safety in neighborhoods tended to be lower. Respondents were asked how much of a priority it was for the police department, that the police department should place on 7 different aspects of services in the next 2 years. These 2 were the priorities that received the highest proportion of respondents saying that these were a high priority. That was the highest point on the scale. Medium priority, low priority, not a priority. 6 in 10 said that these were a high priority, and another about 30% said that they were a medium priority. Each of the 7 areas were deemed at least a high or medium priority by about 8 in 10 residents. We also asked respondents how important it was for the police department to prioritize resources in each of 7 areas over the next 12 months. The 2 shown here on the slide were deemed essential by the highest proportion of respondents. Again, 6 in 10 felt that solving violent crimes and reducing illegal drug activity were essential. Code enforcement was viewed of lower importance, with about 58% saying that it is essential or very important. Economic revitalization is supported in North Glen, and residents could be enticed to shop more North Glen if the right services were being offered. When asked how much they agreed or disagreed with 5 statements about economic development in North Glen, about 8 in 10 strongly or somewhat agreed with each of the statements we've shown here on the slide, and about half strongly agreed with each of the statements. Respondents shared why they shop outside of North Glen, and they could select any or all of the reasons that applied to them. The largest proportion indicated that they shop outside of North Glen because the item isn't offered in the city, and others selected that they shop outside North Glen to visit other major malls or retailers, or they shop online. When asked how frequently they make purchases in North Glen for different types of purchases, I guess, respondents were less likely to get health services and computers or electronics in North Glen, more likely to do grocery shopping or buy meals and entertainment in North Glen. And that's all I have for you. I'm happy to answer any other questions that may have come up.
How many questions were on this survey?
That's a hard question to answer. So there's question sets where sometimes we have those larger grids and there's items within. It was a 5-page survey. We had 21 total questions, but within that, they're line items. So my guess is it is probably close to 200 line items.
And that's getting to my point that it was a time sucker, and there was no way to save it online so that I could come back and not have to start completely over. So I'm trying to do it, and I'm trying to work, and I'm trying to do things like that. So I don't know what the answer is, whether it was too long or we have to have an option that people can come back to it. Because I started it 3 times. And I'll be honest, I didn't finish it.
So when you came back to it,
I had to start all
it had
over
cleared,
again.
or it like timed out. What did you get a message?
No,
I'm just wondering.
I couldn't finish it like all in one day, so I wanted to go back on the next morning when I was on meetings and answer some more questions. But it wasn't there. My previous answers weren't there anymore.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, I think my point is that there were so many questions on this survey this time, such a granular detail that not everybody, and obviously by the people that responded, not everybody had the time to answer them. So maybe if we did some higher level questions every 2 years and use this as a base or something, but 200 questions was just a dream.
It's a lot. It's what we kind of deem the threshold for tolerance. Obviously, some people
real
are
close.
tolerant of that, but definitely shorter surveys elicit higher responses. There are different avenues we can take to try to shorten the survey, but still collect the same amount of detail, where maybe we would, split the survey in half and, select some random portion of, or some random number of households that get half the survey, some random number get the other half of the survey, and can blend the results. We have other clients, or know of other jurisdictions who survey smaller chunks quarterly. Depends on when you need the data. It is a pretty standard size survey for what we do for local government, so it's not atypical by any means, but shorter surveys do elicit higher response rates.
Like Meredith had said, as I'm walking and knocking on doors in the wards, it is the things that people are upset about. The thing that got me is the police department got a higher rating than I from what I had heard from certain people. They got a higher rating than I thought they would have. So it's not, there's a reflection that our police department may not be doing a good job, but it's not proven in this survey, which I thought was pretty interesting. Because it seems like our citizens didn't have an issue, or we didn't get enough people. Thank you.
Any questions?
So in terms of, sorry.
That's okay. I was just going to make a comment. I'm sorry, Antonia. I think we are missing a percentage of community members that have responded, though, with only having English only.
Exactly.
I really feel that it's biased in some ways. So I'm not putting a lot of credibility in some of these numbers that you're getting. Just like the police department, if in fact maybe some that are non-English speaking had contact with the police department, they may have responded, or in any other service at all, so. I just think it's a little weighted.
Heather, what would you say are our top, say, 3 languages spoken in Northland?
English, Spanish, and then the third, I don't know that I have a third off the top of my head. I think, based on this survey, we need to dig deeper. I think when we really start our effort to look at race and equity and engage the community in that conversation, I think we need to find a vehicle, a way to better get a feel for what that third language looks like beyond, and how do we better communicate with our residents beyond producing information in English only right now.
I'd be really surprised if Vietnamese didn't come in the 3 or 4.
From what I have gathered, there's Russian. There's a lot of a large Russian community, and also Asian.
Jordan?
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with the language comment. I think it's crucial that we have Spanish, because it really excludes a certain demographic in the conversation. Second, I know we have an app in the city. Was there an option to put this survey or maybe a further survey on this app to have sort of that online portion where you're able to fill it out on your phone kind of as a user's convenience, to garner more of a perspective if they don't choose to go to the computer, they don't have internet, but they use their phones, and a lot of individuals, almost everyone has a phone.
There wasn't an option this year with this iteration of the survey, so it's something we can definitely look at for the next survey. The online survey was a separate, I want to say, platform that NRC produces, so it wasn't interfaced with our website. But based on what I'm hearing tonight, we can look at trying something different, not only for a print version, but online version, and really figure out, because even if we produced it English, Spanish, you know, how do we still capture those other populations that we have in the city? And that's where I think we need to do more investigation and figure out how do we do that.
I think it's a really challenging thing to do, at least from what our experience is. So we often offer a survey in Spanish. The survey could be completed on a phone or tablet. The survey gets optimized for that versus how it would be displayed on a computer. So if people went to their Safari or whatever browser, typed it in, they could do it that way. It wouldn't have been through the platform I think you're referencing. But we do offer the survey in Spanish online often. For the City and County of Denver, we actually send a Spanish and English survey to every single household that we mail to. And last year, I think we mailed 6,000 and we got 26 Spanish responses. I think that that the proportion, it's important to look at, and I can do this, and I'm sure I did early on, look at the proportion of Spanish speakers who don't speak English very well. Those are the ones that are the hardest to gather responses from, and not that it shouldn't be done as an equity or inclusivity kind of goal for the community. It can easily be done as pretty low cost to offer the survey in line on Spanish. We would have Spanish instructions on the cover letters and the postcards letting people know how they can respond in that language. We often do the survey in multiple languages. The return is often very low. And so I think from what I've read through larger national-wide firms who do a lot of research on how do we capture these groups and how do we include these groups, it's a lot more face-to-face interactions, going to community organizations that specifically serve these kinds of residents that maybe English is not their first language at home, to really try and draw in their response. So I think it would be maybe a separate initiative or in conjunction with the random survey, going to these organizations and encouraging those community leaders to encourage the people in their community to take the survey if they get it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree to that. I think, yeah, it is low, and I get your point in that. But, I mean, if you look at our responses, how many we sent out, it is still low. So I would like to see that option, you know, and maybe it's not just for the Spanish speakers that don't feel like they're engaged or unable to access a survey or to learn about the survey. I mean, we have low results overall, so I think that that's a bigger conversation of how we're getting this message out. Maybe it's not just through the mail, maybe it's not just the connection, maybe we have a social media campaign. I just think overall, I think we would like to see the participation go up, but I think it's crucial that we still engage that demographic and not write them off.
Yes, agreed.
Thank you.
Joanna had talked about doing SurveyMonkey on the on your department. I think it was something we had talked about it like a long time ago, and we talked about the possibility of having a survey so we could find out how passport people felt about the service they were having. Or did I just dream that?
Potentially.
Potentially.
You talked about a customer service survey.
Right.
Not specifically SurveyMonkey. It could be something in person, but yes, customer service survey.
So can we take that, something like that comes out for for her office, right? And attach something like that for code enforcement and something for just customer service, kind of like when you go to Albertsons, it says dial this number and tell us how we were or whatever.
We do that now for code.
We do that for code enforcement now?
CRM has a follow-up survey response, and we track
I mean, the simple answer is yes, we can create a customer service survey for different operational areas in the city. I would say that's different than what the survey is intended to do, but I think collectively you can have multiple different survey approaches. It's a broader conversation of, I would say I haven't gotten there yet in terms of really looking at who has what surveys and how effective are those surveys within the operational areas. This survey, there's a large gap in time from the last survey, so part of what I would expect if we stay consistent with conducting the survey, look at making some tweaks with shortening it, that we'll see an increase in the percentage response rate. But I think, from an operational survey perspective, that's going to give us different information, but good information to use in combination with the other tools that we have.
A couple things. I have a different perspective. I thought the survey was perfectly fine as far as length. It was easy to get through. It didn't take me that long. One of the things that I was thinking about, though, is I knew the value of it as someone from inside the system. The best way to increase participation is to be really transparent about how we're responsive to it. So as we go forward, we need to be really clear, and I'm looking at question 21 as far as the how many times did you access this type of information about North Glen in all the different ways. We need to be really transparent with how we're going to respond to this information, and we need to do that on a variety of platforms in order to build that urgency for the next time. Because if, as a resident, if I look and I say, oh, there was a survey done, and look what happened next. So, residents said X, Y, and Z, and the city was really responsive to that. So now, when the survey comes back around, I'm going to be more likely to fill it out because I'm going to know it has value. Because we are inundated with surveys. I mean, just like Becky said, Albertson's receipt, McDonald's receipt, every receipt we get, they want us to do a quick little survey. But we don't always do it if we don't feel like that information is going to really be valued. So that's just something I'd like to see.
Jenny?
Thank you. I'm curious if there's any correlation between the response rate and the amount of time between surveys, right? The last time we did one was in 2011, and this one is in 2019. And with there being such a gap, we're not really helping our residents anticipate the survey. Do you think that's part of perhaps why we didn't have a strong response rate, or is it some of the other reasons that perhaps other folks have spoken to?
It could be. I think that Councilmember Leidy's point about letting people know, it's something that we often encourage our clients to do when you're about to administer your next survey, is in your cover letter, say, because of the responses from the last survey, here's a bulleted list of the things that we changed or things that we did, so that people do have that kind of call to action saying, oh, look, they actually did something with this and didn't just stick it in a drawer. I do think that, it could be that people weren't expecting it. I know that there was communication about it, and even clients who we have survey annually, their response rates have just been dropping for all the reasons people have said, just burnout of being over-surveyed. So it's definitely something that has been a trend over the last decade, by response rates dropping by 1 or 2%, and so it's not. It wasn't surprising to me that it was lower. The response rate in 2011, I believe, was 29%. And so, if you kind of average it out, we're about where that would fall if response rates dropped 1.5% every year. So, but I think it will be interesting to see if you are able to, use the results and make some actionable or some changes within the community to communicate those with residents. Do it again in 2 years and see if we can boost that response rate so that people see that you're doing something with those data.
Great. I appreciate that response. thinking about the reality that we do have a lower response, I still believe that the data that we have here is good. I still believe that the items that the residents have identified as areas for improvement, I think any one of us can talk to a resident and know that these items will continue to come to the top. So I don't think that we should dismiss anything that's in this report just because the response rate was lower, because I think there are a lot of hidden gems here. And I think it's really critical that in the future, I know we're not doing a survey in 2020, but when we do one in 2021, that we really work to amplify this and make sure that it's available in multiple languages. Because when I was looking at the summary of respondents, I know that our city is not 87% white. And the reality is that we need to do a better job on outreaching to those different communities and making sure that they're included in this process as well in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. I think I agree with most of what I've heard. I think this is an opportunity to move forward in 2 years to lessons learned this year and how can we improve it for 2 years from now, and how do we reach out to the population that we didn't hear from, like Jenny just mentioned. I mean, that's not a representative of our community. So the respondents are much greater in one category than what our population is. I don't know how we fix that, but that's something to look at.
Can I say one more thing? On
Sure.
page 26, where you break out the feelings of safety in Northland, it really concerns me, Heather, that 47% of our residents feel somewhat safe in our parks and playgrounds. Is it our intention to take some of these and pick out some targets where we can have improvement? Because I am pretty disappointed. I mean, I had the trail system. I knew that was a somewhat, but that only 24% of our residents feel safe on the trails is a concern.
Yes, the intent of the survey is to use it as a baseline by which we're measuring our progress with city services. So, part of what I have outlined on page 2 of the survey is to get feedback from council in terms of what specific areas you want to have additional conversation about. When you look at that chart, that is broken down, several of those topics were already in discussion about regarding road maintenance and street repair, snow removal. We have a discussion coming up about level of service on October 21st. Crime prevention, we may need to have more discussion about that specifically to dive deeper. Specifically here, we're talking about school resource officers, neighborhood watch, citizen police academy. So that's interesting feedback to get on those particular programs. Services programs for youth, that's something where we would need to take a deeper dive and really investigate what that looks like. Traffic enforcement, I think many of us hear those concerns, and I think we're making strides to address traffic enforcement by increasing our staffing levels within the police department and ultimately creating a traffic unit, which we haven't had for a couple of years now. And then recreation facilities, we're building a new rec center, senior center, theater, so I would expect to see that improve in the next survey. So the intent is to be responsive and demonstrate that the city is taking this feedback and then doing something about it. It's a scientific-based survey, so there's validity to it, but I think it does, in particular, this page on page 188 of the packet, I think, when all of you are out in the community at your ward meetings, at different events, you hear a lot of these different things, and so it is a good indicator in terms of affirming what you're hearing when you're out in the community. And so I think from my perspective as manager, when you're looking at this upper left quadrant, these are some good areas that we need to focus on moving forward.
So what's your next step with the information?
So my
besides wanting to know from us, but
Sure.
curious what
So
your-
my recommended next steps include a couple of things. Producing a 1 to 2 page, probably 2-page survey highlight recap, a very visually engaging recap piece that'll be included in the Connection newsletter, and that is a standalone piece that all of you can use at ward meetings and different functions when you're out and about in the community, pushing the information out on social media, including the draft results, the PowerPoint from this evening, the actual report, making those information tools available via our city website. And that's something that we currently don't have on our website. Engaging the Citizens Affairs Board, and to the best of my knowledge, I could be wrong, so please correct me if I am. I don't know that they've been engaged in terms of hearing a presentation of these results in the past. So that would be an addition that I would add, and then soliciting feedback from them, find out what is of interest with that board in terms of the focus moving forward, and continuing the conversation with my leadership team in making sure that we're utilizing the citizen survey when we're building our operational budgets, and really identifying, hearing what the gaps are based on our resident perceptions, and then utilizing that as we make recommendations moving forward to City Council.
I was at the last CAB meeting, and they really want to get involved in the city more. I mean, they're just not really that engaged, so we could probably use them to our benefit. I don't know how, but they want to be more involved.
At one time, the CAB actually developed the citizens survey.
Oh, okay. So that's what I'm thinking are our next steps, open to comments and feedback, and if there's any particular areas beyond what's been discussed and identified already that you'd like to focus on, I'd like to know that tonight, or if you want me to schedule a follow-up conversation to allow more time to digest the results and really get through the report, because I understand it was a lengthy report. You know, we can have additional conversation in the future.
I welcome a deeper conversation. The summary was great, but it was really surface level. And so if you go into the data, some of those things where, you know, it's highlighted on the slide as, you know, the top 2 areas, there's a top 3 that's like right underneath it, that I think also has value and is something that we should lean into. And so I would like to look a little deeper, but I'm assuming you're doing that with staff. So, you know, I think it's up to you. If you would like our feedback on it, we could do that, or you could just do it with each department. I just know that as we dig in and look at it, it's super interesting. So
I think I'd want to have it be both pieces, not only staff, but also, you know, circling back to the whole purpose of the survey, which is to provide transparency in terms of the city services. I mean, this is meant to be a consumer report card of sorts, where this is a way for us to look in the mirror and say, what are we doing well and where do we need to improve? So I think it can have that conversation with leadership team, as I mentioned, and then circle back to council and have that deeper dive.
Jenny?
I feel like the piece that I'm most interested in, if we're going to do a deeper dive, is really identifying the strategies and tactics, basically the actions that we're taking to address some of the lower quality concerns or areas that residents want to see improved, and making sure that that's aligned with what our 2020 budget is. And I think a lot of the areas are already aligned and are addressed, but making sure that we're immediately being responsive in 2020 as well. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
You.
Thank you
Thanks,
all.
Lori.
Thank you,
Have a
Lori.
good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So is there any other items for council? Hearing none, we're adjourned.
That's kind of-
on. Good evening. I will now call to order the regular city council meeting of September 23rd, 2019. Joanne, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Escobar,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Leidy,
Here.
Councilmember Sowers,
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Here.
Councilmember Downing,
Here.
Councilmember Brown,
Here.
Councilmember Whitman,
Here.
Councilmember Duran Mullica is absent, Councilmember Wilford.
Present.
Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. City Manager Guard, any responses to citizen inquiry?
Nothing this evening, Mayor Escobar.
Thank you. Agenda additions or deletions from council? Hearing none. Proclamations, if you would join me downstairs for proclamations.
Can you reach that to turn it on? The microphone. Thank you.
Okay, first up we have Virgil and Barbara Hall, and I understand that Virgil Jr. is going to be accepting the proclamation. Come on up, sir. Stand here to my left, that'll be good. Proclamation reads as, whereas the city of North Glen celebrates the 50th year anniversary in 2019, and whereas the city is celebrating residents whose contributions have positively affected the city and the lives of others, and whereas Virgil and Barbara Hall had lived in North Glen since 1962. Wow.
A while.
It's been a while. I was a sophomore in high school.
Yeah.
And have been active volunteers in the community, and whereas Virgil and Barbara are members of the Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association of North Glen, commonly referred to as CPAN, a group of volunteers their time to support North Glen Police Department, and whereas Barbara volunteered at Westview Elementary School for many years, helping students with reading and math, and whereas Virgil has served as a valued member of the city's liquor licensing authority, has been a crew leader for the Farmers Canal cleanup, is a trail and park partner, and has been involved in many special projects, including painting the Centennial Bell at Centennial Park every year, and whereas Virgil and Barbara have won many North Glen neighborhood beautification awards that take pride in maintaining their home and their yard. Virgil has also helped neighbors by using his snowblower to clear sidewalks, and whereas Virgil and Barbara have gone above and beyond to make a difference and help others, and whereas Virgil and Barbara have positively impacted the lives and living conditions of individuals in the community at large, now therefore I, Antonio B. Escobar, Mayor of the City of North Glen, hereby congratulate Virgil and Barbara Hall for being honored by their fellow residents, City Council, and myself for their contributions to the City of North Glen. Dated at North Glen, Colorado, this 23rd day of September, 2019. Mr. Hall Jr., you have some great, great parents.
Yeah, I have some big shoes to fill as well. Sure. My parents regret that they're not able to come, but they are very pleased to get this. They're very proud members of North Glen, as you can tell. They've been here for a while. And they're just deeply grateful for this award. I'm sure I know they're going to be very happy to get it. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Next up is Wilson Pogo Lindquist. Congratulations, sir. Proclamation reads as, whereas the city of North Glen celebrates 50th anniversary in 2019, and whereas the city is celebrating residents whose contributions have positively affected the city and the lives of others, and whereas Wilson Pogo Lindquist has used his snowblower to clear the sidewalks on each side of Monterey Circle and Melody Drive in his neighborhood, and whereas Wilson's helps after snowstorms have noticed a resident looking out of her window, and Wilson performed an act of kindness with after several snowstorms last winter, and whereas Wilson's efforts in his neighborhood are appreciated by those who are unable to shovel snow, and his volunteerism helps create a safe environment in the neighborhoods, and whereas before retiring, Wilson's professional efforts directly benefited the safety of the residents through his service with the North Metro Fire Rescue District, and whereas Wilson has gone above and beyond to make a difference and to help others, and whereas Wilson has positively impacted the lives and living conditions of individuals and in the community at large. Now, therefore, I, Antonio B. Escobar, Mayor of the City of North Glen, Colorado, hereby congratulate Wilson Pogo Lindquist for being honored by fellow residents, City Council, and myself for his contributions to the City of North Glen, dated at North Glen, Colorado, this 23rd day of September, 2019.
It's pretty amazing. Several years ago, there was a snowstorm that hit the metro area, and my daughter came home from college, and all she did was shovel snow through the whole week while I was at work. And so the next storm season came around, and I went over to Lowe's, and I said, I need a snowblower. And so I ended up buying a snowblower, and you know, with our front yard, it only takes a minute or two to do the whole front yard, and I thought, well, let's see how much more fun I can have. And also, I'm not the only one in our neighborhood that does this. And we have races and all kinds of stuff with our snowblowers. So we really appreciate this being thought of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
It's a nickname I got when I went to college. Yeah, exactly.
Next up is Jerry and Crystal Luthi. Are you in the house? Stay strong. I like that. Proclamation reads, whereas the city of North Glen celebrates its 50th anniversary in 2019, and whereas the city is celebrating residents whose contributions have positively affected the city and the lives of others, and whereas Crystal and Jerry are well respected by their neighbors and their long-standing family history of making North Glen a better place, and are described by others as embodying the heart of North Glen. And whereas Crystal and Jerry take care of many seniors and a neighbor with special needs by providing meals, mowing lawns, helping around their homes, and including everyone is special celebration. And whereas Crystal and Jerry have provided food and assistance to neighbors facing challenging financial times, Crystal coordinates meals with families with their new babies and illnesses, and they always make enough food for celebrations to feed all of the police officers who may drop by. I don't want to put that out too much. And whereas Crystal volunteers at the Catholic Food Bank
in numerous ways and has volunteered many hours of support to support students and teachers when their daughter Ashley and Mandy were in school. Crystal and Jerry have also helped maintain their softball field in Northland High School, and Jerry has volunteered his time as a member of the Adams 12 Five Stars School District Board of Education, and has also provides cheer to the community by setting up their famous Christmas display every holiday season, and even dressing up as one of Santa's helpers on occasions. And whereas Crystal and Jerry have gone above and beyond to make a difference and help others, and whereas Crystal and Jerry have positively impacted the lives and living conditions of individuals in the community at large. Now, therefore, I, Antonio B. Escobel, Mayor of the City of Northland, Colorado, hereby congratulate Crystal and Jerry for being honored by fellow residents, City Council, myself, for their contribution to the City of Northland, dated at Northland, Colorado, this 23rd day of September 2019. Congratulations.
Just thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. We just do what we can to help out.
Thank you. Next up is Carol Wotalevich. Carol? The proclamation reads as follows. The City of Northland celebrates its 50th anniversary in 2019. And whereas the city is celebrating residents whose contributions have positively affected the city and the lives of others, and whereas Carol is described by her neighbors as a wonderful superwoman who makes Northland safe and a special place to live. And Carol and her late husband, Elliot, have set an example for their family to be humble community volunteers and to be caring, loving neighbors. And whereas Elliot served the community in a variety of ways, he was very active as a member of the City Election Commission. He coached Little League Baseball, volunteered his time at Catholic Food Banks, with Special Olympics, the Senior Hub, Paint-a-thons, and at the Mother Cabrini Shrine, and 9 Health Fair News. And whereas Carol cooks for elderly neighbors, has taken sick neighbors to the hospital, and has cared for their families who need extra help. And whereas Carol has planned neighborhood parties to encourage everyone to get to know each other, and neighbors say her actions show that she loves all of us. And whereas Carol is the famous Christmas Carol who greets everyone and hands out candy canes at the regionally organized Christmas Crusade display that brings thousands of people to the neighborhood during the holiday season. And whereas Carol has gone above and beyond to make a difference and help others. And whereas Carol has positively impacted the lives and living conditions of individuals in the community at large. Now, therefore, I, Antonio B. Escobel, Mayor of the City of Northland, Colorado, hereby congratulate Carol for being honored by fellow residents, City Council, and myself for her contribution to the City of Northland, dated at Northland, Colorado, the 23rd day of September, 2019. Congratulations. So the recognition program is what it makes community and brings us all together, because we take time to recognize the efforts that people are doing. If you know of someone that you would like to have recognized, there's a simple application online. You can come into the city offices and do it. Jenny in the background, wherever you are, Jenny, there. You can see Jenny, and she will help navigate you through that if you so desire. But we want to celebrate our residents because that's what makes us a community. Speaking of Jenny, Jenny is going to help us with Customer Service Week.
Another favorite part of my job is to get to help our employees celebrate Customer Service Week. We have quite a family here at Northglenn, and each and every employee that we have gives 100% day in and day out. And each year, we like to choose one of our teams that has gone kind of above and beyond day in and day out, giving great customer service. And so this year, we'd like to recognize, to receive the proclamation, our sanitation crew. And this evening, we have 3 of those wonderful guys, and I'd like them to come up. Chuck and Ben and Keith. I'm going to tell not mean stories or anything about this crew, but I'll bet those that are watching at home know these guys and the rest of our guys just like a member of your family, because I know that many people know what time they drive by, know they watch to make sure that people have trash out, so, and if they don't, they check on them. You know, they're really out in the community more than any other employees that we have, up and down the streets, day in and day out. And I know many employees say, you know, people notice certain jobs in the city, but if our sanitation crew misses one house for whatever reason, all of us hear about it. There's at least 8 phone calls. And then they go right back out and they pick it up, no matter what the reason is. They also do special pickups. As you guys know, we have a great service for residents for free, and then after a couple of them at a low cost. We have tree branch recycling, which no other city does what we do that way. Free mulch, I know we have some of that. And they also help us with our bike program, picking up donated bikes. So I could go on and on and on, but I'd like to read all their names just so, because they're not all here tonight. So we have Keith Kovac, who's our supervisor. He's been here 25 years. Mark Stevens is not here this evening, 35 years. Bridget, who keeps them all under control, has been here 7 years. Don Woods, 25 years. Scott Storm, 25 years. Kevin Welke, 22 years. Greg Hutchinson, 21 years. Chuck Mason, this tiny guy, 18 years. Roland Arellano, 1 year. And Ben, who's awesome, is 1 year also. So if you add all those up, that's over 150 years of service in one department. And I think they're one of our hardest working crews. So with that said, you can tell I'm kind of partial to them a little bit. So the proclamation, I've never read one of these, so I'll find out how hard it is, right? So whereas in 1992, the United States Congress proclaimed that the National Customer Service Week will be recognized as an annual event and celebrated during the first full week in October, and whereas the National Customer Service Week is set aside to recognize the importance of service, excellence, and honor to those who demonstrate outstanding customer service and who consistently perform their duties with the highest level of professionalism, and whereas the City of Northglenn is committed to providing the highest and most efficient level of customer service, and it is important that high-quality customer service be a goal of every person in our organization. And whereas the City Council desires to express its sincere thanks and appreciation for the excellent customer service provided by our employees at the City of North Glen, and wishes to acknowledge the quality service provided by employees externally to residents and the public, and internally to their fellow co-workers. And whereas, by recognizing National Customer Service Week, we can provide an opportunity to generate an even stronger commitment to customer service excellence through motivation and teamwork to continue throughout the next year and years after that. Now, therefore, on behalf of our Mayor Antonio B. Escobar at the City of North Glen, we do hereby proclaim the week of October 7th through the 11th, 2019 as Customer Service Week in the City of North Glen. And the Mayor and City Council honor all of our staff at the City of North Glen and their commitment to service, and encourage our staff to continue their efforts to provide quality assistance and support to all those who seek our services. Dated at North Glen, Colorado, this 23rd day of September, 2019. Ben, could you come back? And Chuck, will you guys come up for a picture, please? Real quick.
You're tall. He's tall. Chuck, you might have to go in the back. Yeah. Marcy, you're gonna have to. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna like crowd around these guys. The closer you guys are into each other, the better the photo.
And actually, Keith, can you get in the center and hold up your proclamation? Thank you. Yeah.
I'm setting up. So the next is the Fishing Derby winner, Scarlett Jones. Come on up with your family. A little bit shy. Well, we were real happy to see you in the park at the Fishing Derby. Julie and I presented to you. Do you remember? No? Okay. But I'm gonna let Miss Jenny Murphy talk a little bit about the Derby and make the presentation, okay?
Okay, Scarlett, will you come right up here so the camera can see you real big? Remember how we talked about it? Don't be afraid. Okay. So, tell me, what is your name, Scarlett?
Scarlett.
And what's your last name? Jones? Okay. How old are you? 5? Were you 5 when you caught your fish? Was she 5 when she caught her fish? You were just a little girl, huh? Did you know Scarlett won her age group the year before that, and her cousin, right?
No, uncle.
Uncle, okay. And her small uncle, very confusing, won his age group the year before, right? So that means you guys are just a fishing family, aren't you? And every year, North Glen has this really cool event called the Kids Fishing Derby, and that's part of Derby Day. And you've come for a couple of years, and the city of North Glen has had it for 31 years. Can you believe that? That's really old, isn't it? So every year, about 300 kids come. And out of all of those kids, guess who caught the biggest fish this year? Scarlett did, right? So Scarlett, because you caught the biggest fish, do you remember what we promised we would do with the fish? What?
You would give me the fish and I could hang it up on my wall.
That's right. Guess what happened? So we took your very special fish to a very special place, and you get to take that fish home. What do you think of your fish? Pretty? Yeah, that's the fish that you caught at the Kids Fishing Derby, and we want to thank you for catching the biggest fish. So you get to shake all of the council's hands, okay? All right, and show them your fish at least, okay? Thank you, Scarlett. And thank you, fishing family, for keeping coming back to the Derby days, okay? Can we come right up here and have a picture with City Council?
Stand right in the middle. And hold your fish. Hold your fish like this. There you go. Smile. Look over here, baby.
Look cool.
I know.
Okay, next item is public invited to be heard, 5 minutes per speaker. Limited to 5 minutes per speaker, statements should be related to city business and limited to matters of community interest. Anybody wish to come forward and speak? No one? Seeing no one, we'll move on. Legislative Policy Committee update, Jenny?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Nothing this evening. Consent agenda.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved in second. Joanne, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
I'm not in.
Please vote. All right, public hearings.
Hang on, I haven't voted.
I'm sorry.
I'll close that
Sorry,
vote.
Joanna. Yeah.
No worries. I'll close that vote, and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Thank you. Public hearing, CB 1932. Joanne, would you read the title, please?
A bill for a special ordinance rezoning from MC Mixed Use Corridor to PF Public Facilities, certain real property known as the North Glen Civic Campus property, City of North Glen, County of Adams, State of Colorado, and amending the zoning map of the City of North Glen.
Okay, I'll not open opening statement in full. I will now open a public hearing on the application for rezoning of the North Glen Recreation Center property for mixed-use corridor to public facilities. The North Glen City Council has jurisdiction to conduct this hearing under applicable provisions of its Home Rule Charter and Chapters 3 and 11 of the North Glen Municipal Code. Procedure to be followed in this case will be as follows. City staff will give a brief outline on the nature of the application. The applicant may then present any evidence in support of the application. All persons opposed to the application shall then be entitled to present evidence, and any interested person shall be entitled to present public comment or evidence. The applicant may then present any rebuttal evidence. Council members may ask questions of staff, the applicant, and the public who testify. All witnesses will be placed under oath by the city clerk and may be cross-examined by any party, council, or any party of the members of city council. Are there any objections to the jurisdiction of the city council or to the form or substance of this proceeding? Hearing none, staff shall give a brief outline. Brooke?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Brooks Svoboda, Director of Planning and Development. For tonight's presentation, I would also like to point out that Eric Inzi, who is the Deputy Project Manager or Co-Project Manager on this, will be acting on behalf as the applicant, as he is basically managing the entitlement process on behalf of the city for this particular project. Starting off, so basically why we are here tonight on this request is that we had originally rezoned the property to mixed-use commercial for the entire site. What we come to realize is that with the public facilities and the contemplated zoning under mixed-use commercial is that the building itself that we're proposing doesn't quite fit under mixed commercial, and so we're rezoning to public facilities because it's more appropriate for the typology and single-use type structure that we are proposing. This is located at 120th and Webster Lake Promenade Development. It's west of Community Center Drive. Here's a vicinity map of the location. This is the area in question to be rezoned. Let's see if I can get the laser to work here. So City Hall sits right here, Rec Center sits here. This area that's in the yellow is what is being proposed tonight for the rezone. This is just some site data information over the property and what its current zoning is. It's approximately 7 acres, which we're considering for tonight. There are 2 structures on the overall acreage of the property. This is just a review of the site characteristics. I won't read them verbatim. But anyways, if any questions on that, please let me know. This is a picture of the surrounding zoning and the existing zoning for the property. I would point out that we have commercial to the north, PUD, which is Webster Lake Promenade, the Ramada, the park, and then to the south is Stone Mountain Apartments. This is just a slide to verify that the proper notifications for public hearing were adhered to for this particular case. And then next jumping into is the analysis. When we review these requests for rezoning, we look at criteria analysis, specifically as it relates to the comprehensive plan. We find that the proposed rezone satisfies the following requirements. 6B4, which is enhance the appearance and image of the city to attract new business. 6B5, encourage the redevelopment of underutilized and vacant properties. And 9B1, continue to provide citizens of North Glen with the highest level of public services and facilities the city can support. And in that vein, we are here tonight considering the property specifically for the Community Center Rec Theater. Also, it's important to note that as part of the comprehensive plan, that this is also part of the Civic Center master plan, and that this is consistent with the overall vision of that particular master plan. And here are just the key highlights in those bullets: enhance stronger community identity, integrate a vibrant mix of land use, evaluate the best location for municipal facilities, provide public gathering space, and leverage success of adjacent developments and strengthen connections to the community. The property is currently zoned mixed use. The rezoning portion to public facilities accommodates the civic and recreational uses. And lastly, identifies issues in mixed commercial, including setbacks and architectural standards. And so that's all detailed and more within the staff report. If you have any questions, then I'm happy to answer that. Just in general, we're going to be basically looking at height and also massing. One of the things with the mixed-use commercial is that the architectural design standards are typically based for a building that would have multiple uses and different sort of visual planes and breakups, whereas under public facilities, it's less stringent, and therefore for a building of a single massing like this, it makes more sense to have it considered for that. Recommendation, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on this as well. They recommended approval. Staff recommends that it's, or finds that it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, and that the analysis of these plans is on page 3 of the Planning Commission staff report. As always with rezoning requests, we have a set of criteria that we adhere to, which is part of the council bill. Planning Commission proposed approval at their August 20th meeting. They voted unanimously. Staff recommends approval of CB 1932. And with that, I'll open up to any questions. Oh, and I'm sorry, last slide. Council options, you can approve as presented, approve with conditions, or request a table for additional information.
Okay. Anyone opposed to the rezoning may come forward now and present evidence. Any other interested person may come forward now to present evidence. If any testimony is provided by the public, you'll be required to state your name and be sworn in. Is there anyone who would like to speak for, against, or neutral? Kathy, are you still with us? Did you want to?
That's for another one, I thought.
Did you want to speak to this matter?
Was it not the zoning matter yet? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Does council have any questions of the applicant? Staff, Brooks Devoted. Good. I will now close the public hearing on CB 1932. Next item is the North Glen Civic Center subdivision preliminary plat. I will now open the public hearing of the North Glen Civic Center subdivision preliminary plat. Is there anyone who would like to speak for or against the subdivision plat? If so, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. If no one, anybody wish to speak for or against? I see no one approach. I'll close the public hearing.
But during the public, we do have a public presentation for the public hearing.
You have a presentation?
Yes, I do. I additionally have a presentation on the preliminary and final plat for tonight. You will note that your packet information is under CR 108 of your packet. The reason for that is because we host a public hearing for the preliminary plat before council. The final plat is actually taken up by the Planning Commission. So with that, I'll quickly go through the presentation here. We're looking to basically identify and create a legal lot of record for the Civic Center master plan and for the Senior Theater Rec Center. And look at this, it's the same vicinity map. Imagine that. And this is actually a picture of the entire property of the 21 acres that is in place. This is a slide verifying public hearing notification. Once again, same site data, although this reflects the entire 20 acres as we are creating not just a lot for the rec center, but also identifying lots for future pad site development and open space and public rights of way. So we're basically looking to accommodate the growth or development of the new rec center, senior center, performing arts facility, and also in accordance with our regulations. Obviously, this doesn't show up very well on this for the graphic, but this is where the rec center is. We're proposing Memorial Parkway. These two areas here are tracts of land that will be dedicated for open space. To the south is a future pad site lot, and to the north is a future pad site lot. I would point out that these are just preliminary lots that are being created. They may be further subdivided or developed as future development occurs on the site. This is just a cleaner version of that map that shows the actual geometry of the easements as well as the dedicated parcels of land. So with that, the Plan Commission held their public hearing on September 17th. They voted unanimously to recommend approval of the preliminary and final plan. Staff is recommending approval of Council Resolution 108, approving a resolution for the preliminary and final plat. Would also point out that this is in essence the last step in this process for the site development of the actual senior theater rec center, and that we would, oops, sorry, thought I had one more on there. And that after this, essentially, we will have cleared all the necessary land use entitlements in order to move forward with the project. And with that, I'll open up to any questions.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay. Any questions for Brooke? Council? No? Seeing no one approached, I will close the public hearing. CB 1933. Ma'am, would you read the title, please?
A bill for a special ordinance authorizing a site lease and lease purchase agreement between the City of North Glen, Colorado and UMB Bank N.A. solely in its capacity as trustee for the purpose of financing a new municipal recreational center and related improvements, approving not to exceed $42 million principal amount of certificates of participation, Series 2019, in connection therewith, authorizing officials of the city to take all action necessary to carry out the transactions contemplated hereby and related matters.
Okay, I'll now open the public hearing on CB 1933. Is there anyone who would like to speak for or against CB 1933? Do we have a presentation on this one, City Manager Gar?
No formal presentation this evening, Mayor Escobar. Staff is available to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Seeing no one approach, I'll close the public hearing. CB 1934. Joanne, would you read the title, please?
A bill for an ordinance amending Section 2-2-3, Parent B of the North Glen Municipal Code regarding the organizational meeting following a regular municipal election.
I will now open public hearing on CB 1934. Is there anyone who would like to speak either for or against CB 1934? Seeing no one come forward, I will now close the public hearing on CB 1934. CB 1935, would you read the title, Joanne?
A bill for an ordinance amending sections 9-14-3 and 9-14-4 of the North Glen Municipal Code prohibiting smoking and the use of electronic smoking devices in public parks and recreational areas.
I'll now open the public hearing on CB 1935. Is there anyone who would like to speak either for or against CB 1935? For or against on CB 1935? Seeing no one approach, I will now close the public hearing on CB 1935. Move us into ordinance. Second reading. Would you read the title, please?
A bill for a special ordinance rezoning from MC Mixed Use Corridor to PF Public Facilities, certain real property known as the North Glen Civic Campus property, City of North Glen, County of Adams, State of Colorado, and amending the zoning map of the City of North Glen.
Move for approval. Second.
Moved in second. City Manager Gar, would you summarize the item, please?
Yes, Mayor Escobar. As mentioned previously, this is rezoning of about approximately 7 acres of property to public facilities. The remainder of the site will remain zoned mixed-use corridor.
Discussion? Questions? Would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Locked in.
I'll close that vote, and CB 1932 on second reading passes unanimously.
CB 1933. Joanne, would you read the title, please?
A bill for a special ordinance authorizing a site lease and lease purchase agreement between the City of North Glen, Colorado and UMB Bank N.A. solely in its capacity as trustee for the purpose of financing a new municipal recreational center and related improvements, approving not to exceed $42 million principal amount of certificates of participation, Series 2019, in connection therewith, authorizing officials of the city to take all action necessary to carry out the transactions contemplated hereby and related matters.
Moved and second. City Manager Guyer, would you, I'm sorry. Open the vote, Joanne, please.
The vote is open.
It's not.
Okay. Now, City Manager Guyer, would you summarize the item?
Certainly, Mayor Escabel, I would add additional information that has not been yet summarized, but is included in the staff memorandum for the public's benefit. The key parameters or maximum allowable transaction levels for this action include $42 million of principal, 25-year maturity rate, and a net effective interest rate not to exceed 5.5%. This is a significant step in the city moving forward with the construction of the long-awaited senior center, rec center, and theater.
Any questions, Council? CB 1934. Joanne, would you read the title, please?
And before we move on,
Wait, just close the vote.
One,
No, we didn't. Mine didn't go.
Mine's still.
so I'm going to close the vote on CB 1933, and that passes unanimously. So now we're on to CB 1934, which is a bill for an ordinance amending Section 2-2-3, Parent B of the North Glen Municipal Code regarding the organizational meeting following a regular municipal election.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Do it the right way this time.
Thank you, Mayor Escabel. I'd ask if Joanna Smaller, City Clerk, has anything to add on this item.
I'm happy to answer questions of the council unless you'd like a summary.
Any questions? Open the vote, please. Please vote.
The vote is open. I'll close that vote, and CB 1934 on second reading passes unanimously.
Okay. 1935. Joanne, would you read the title, please?
A bill for an ordinance amending sections 9-14-3 and 9-14-4 of the North Glen Municipal Code prohibiting smoking and the use of electronic smoking devices in public parks and recreational areas.
To approve. Second.
I'm sorry, Jenny?
If you want to ask Heather something, and then I'll.
City Manager Guyer.
Thank you, Mayor Escabel. This proposed ordinance is based on prior council direction in late June that we received to move forward with efforts to implement smoke-free policies within the city of North Glen. In addition, before the end of the year, the city will be bringing forward proposed regulations for council's consideration related to vaping, specifically with businesses that are in the city of North Glen. However, this proposed ordinance is specifically related to the use of tobacco products and vaping devices within our city parks.
Jenny?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So when we had the public comment section, you indicated that only individuals who were speaking in favor or against the proposed ordinance would be able to speak. And so we have an individual here from Tri-County Health who's here to speak as a neutral party and doesn't want to take a position. And so I'm hoping that you would allow me to yield my time so that she can speak and share her comments.
Of course.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and the council, and apologies for my procedural confusion. Due to the nature of my position, I must remain neutral when it comes time for a vote in actual council matters. So I'm Kathy Stotts. I'm a prevention and policy specialist with Tri-County Health Department, and I'm here to give the public health perspective and say a few words about smoke-free parks. A few of you might recognize me from when I spoke at a study session earlier this summer in June. So I just want to really highlight the fact that parks are very specifically a place for health. It's where we gather, we play, we move together. And when we're at parks, any exposure to secondhand smoke when we're out is harmful. There's no risk-free level of secondhand smoke exposure, whether that is a traditional tobacco product or the electronic nicotine devices. There are health harms to anything other than a full gulp of fresh air as we're playing soccer or having a picnic or just taking a second to look at the Colorado sky. So the benefits of any ordinance that establishes a standard such as this are many, but one is that this park, this open space, makes it even more inviting to all in the community and really emphasizes the fact that that space is there to be a place for healthy living. And an established ordinance is an important step to encourage what the community stands for, and just that families know what they're getting into when they go to a park in a place that has standards such as this. So I listened to the recording of the first reading of this presentation and heard Chief May talk about that the basis of what we're discussing tonight is education, and that is huge. I'm so thankful that that is the frame that this council is discussing in any sort of matters with any of the tobacco prevention and control measures that I brought to the study session and that I hope we can continue to work on in months and years forward. But the reason for that education is denormalizing the use of these smoking products. Think of how far we've come from the middle of last century to now with the products at hand that we're discussing today. But then also our environmental concerns. We are our Earth's keeper, and we know how detrimental that traditional cigarette litter is, but we're also finding out more and more about the hazards of these nicotine products. They're actually treated as hazardous materials when we need to dispose of them. When we do collections of the materials themselves, they need to be disposed of as any other environmental hazardous material. And I heard from the last reading that someone said, I learned from this policy there's so many more new ways to smoke. And that's so true. The tobacco industry is putting out more devices by the day. And I frame it as this, that public health is always trying to catch up with whatever the tobacco industry is putting forth that day. And so any sort of establishment of standards is responding to new and emerging threats and creating that standard for the future forward. So Tri-County Health Department supports evidence-based policies that benefit the public's health, where we live, we learn, we work, we play, we gather. And so I'm just so thankful for the partnership between this council and the city staff for the work that we've done thus far. And no matter what happens moving forward, Tri-County Health Department and our team is here to help with every step of the way, with thinking about framing and this messaging, thinking about signage, thinking about engaging our young people. However the council may need the help of the health department, we are the county's health department. We are Adams County's health department, Arapahoe and Douglas, and we're here for you. So I just want to say thank you for communities like Northglenn considering ways to protect a community treasure, not only the beautification and protection of the land itself, but any that are lucky enough to use them. Thank you so much for letting me have time.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak to the matter? Jenny?
Yeah, sorry, just last things. Yeah. Just a quick question. I wanted to clarify. So in this ordinance, we're simply adding electronic smoking devices. Can you clarify that?
We are prohibiting smoking in parks and other public places, and including within the definition of smoking the electronic devices. But previously, you could smoke anything in a public park, so it's both.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Anybody else? Okay. Joanne, would you open the vote?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CB 1935 on second reading passes unanimously.
resolutions. Joanne, would you read the titles, please?
The first one is for CR 107, a resolution distributing funding to outside agencies in accordance with the recommendations of the City of North Glen Outside Agency Funding Committee.
Move for approval.
Yeah.
Second.
Jack, would you like to summarize the item?
Thank you, Mayor Escobar. I would ask that Joanna Smaller, City Clerk, provide that summary to council.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Some quick background on this item. Resolution number 17-03, series of 2017, authorizes the City Council Outside Agency Funding Committee to coordinate a grant program with the City Clerk's Office for the purpose of funding nonprofit organizations who provide services that directly benefit the well-being of the North Glen residents. The staff memorandum includes the time frame that was used for the 2019 grant program. It also contains the criteria for the organizations. Some of those quickly are, it requires that they are a nonprofit entity, that they serve North Glen residents directly, that they are nonpartisan, that they are preferably located within North Glen, and so forth. The Outside Agency Funding Committee received presentations from the applicants on September 6th and provided recommendations for the allocation of the grant funding. The recommendations include a grant award to A Precious Child in the amount of $5,000, to Almost Home in the amount of $4,000, to the Immaculate Heart of Mary Food Bank in the amount of $6,000, and to the Senior Hub organization in the amount of $5,000. The staff memorandum also includes information about each agency for which funding has been recommended, and also includes the services that they provide to the North Glen community. The grant program requires that the proposed funding amounts be formally approved by resolution. So CR 107 has been drafted for council's consideration, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, as I'm sure the committee would be as well.
Questions for Joanne?
I think it was 2 weeks ago, we had a conversation about the things that Sacred Heart or Immaculate Heart of Mary was going to pull back from the food bank, you know, the bikes, the backpacks, all of that good stuff. Does that affect what we're doing with this grant money that we gave them? Because now, from what I understand, from now, this is going to be a much smaller population that's going to be able to use this and not open to all the residents at North Glen like the other food bank was.
So the way I understand the Immaculate Heart of Mary's grant application is that the grant funding from the Outside Agency Funding Committee would be used for a program that they identify as food pantry staples. And in their application, it stated that the grant funds will be used to purchase bulk food items such as pinto beans and rice on a monthly basis that are staple for those monthly food baskets that they distribute, and that they would also use the funding to purchase protein items that are more expensive and that aren't regularly donated. I know that the applicant provided information to the committee about who is eligible to utilize that food bank, and it kind of works two ways. So if you're willing to register your address, you can, I believe, get that monthly food basket, and that's how they track the number of residents that are served from the North Glen community. If you cannot or do not want to register yourself or your family, you are able to visit what they call that bread room that has other food. So I don't believe that any of this funding touches any of those other programs regarding the bikes or the clothing drives. This is specifically to that food bank that they have.
I think I was more curious because there was the conversation that they were bringing the food bank internally in. So my concern is that other residents outside of the church family would not be eligible, or will they still, do we know if they will continue to serve other residents outside the church family? Because now anybody can go to the food bank, right? But if they pull it back and it's in the church family.
My understanding is from the presentation, anyone can go to the food bank at any time. That they are pulling back on the bike program and the food drive, but has nothing to do with the grant that was asked for.
Okay, thank you.
More questions? Okay, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote. CR 108. Joanne, would you read the title, please?
Yep. And before I do that, I'm going to close the vote on CR 107, and CR 107 passes unanimously.
Now, would you read the title for 108?
All right, CR 108, a resolution approving the North Glen Civic Center subdivision preliminary and final plat.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. City Manager Guyer, would you introduce the item?
Certainly. This item is a proposed preliminary and final plat documents related to the subdivision process for the Civic Center as previously discussed, and staff's available to answer any specific questions that council might have.
Discussion, questions? Joanne, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CR 108 passes unanimously.
CR 109. Joanne, would you read the title, please?
A resolution approving the 2020 Parks and Recreation User Fee Schedule.
Move for approval.
Second.
City Manager Guyer, would you introduce the item, please?
Yes, I'd like to invite Deb Lawson with our Parks and Recreation Department to come up and summarize this item. She is representing Amanda Peterson this evening. Deb, if you want to come on up. Oh, okay.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, the proposed resolution, you can jump in and answer any questions. If I can't answer them, Deb, my apologies.
You feel so important. Thank you.
This is a proposed fee schedule for council's consideration for the 2020 year. The proposed fee schedule has received support from the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board as outlined in our municipal code and required. And so we can answer any questions if you have any. If you look at attachment 1 of the proposed user fee schedule, you'll see where we highlighted different recommendations. That's a really brief summary, but happy to answer any questions. If council has any of them.
I don't have any questions, but it's fun to see you here, Deb.
I'm so sorry.
I said I don't have any questions, but it's fun to see you here at the meeting.
The feeling is mutual. Thank you. It gives me a chance to dress up. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
You got off easy.
I was all prepared
I
too.
know.
Darn it.
Well, we can ask.
We can ask.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
What questions? We can dig up some.
Usually I'm here with Buddy the Bison or something else, so I'm kind of out of my element this afternoon here, so.
Okay. No questions? Everybody's happy? Joanne, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CR 109 passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Have a good evening.
Thanks,
You.
me too.
Thanks, Deb.
Thank you.
Okay. CR 110. Joanne, would you read the title, please?
A resolution supporting ballot issue 6A for Anythink Libraries, also known as Rangeview Library District, to increase the library system's mill levy funding, allowing it to expand services.
Move to approve.
Second.
Manager Guyer.
Thank you, Mayor Esquivel. This resolution of support, we were requested to seek council approval on this letter of support for the 6A Anythink Library ballot issue going to voters in November. This evening, we have Sean Walsh and then Stacy Ledden, did I say that correctly, who are here to answer any questions about this particular ask for support.
Want to come forward and see if we have any questions? Do we have any questions? No? Got off easy.
I don't have any questions, but is it appropriate that they can say something or not? Stacey, do you want to add anything for
Well,
residents?
I'll just introduce myself. I'm Stacy Ledden. I'm the Director of Innovations and Brand Strategy for Anythink Libraries. And here on my own time tonight as a volunteer for the Support Anythink Libraries Yes on 6A campaign. And I've been with Anythink for, it'll be 11 years on October 13th. And we just appreciate all the support that we've gotten from you all and the collaboration and everything over the years. So thank you. And you are the first city council in the region to be hopefully adopting this resolution. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Can you tell the residents at home what 6A is and what your ask is?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
So, I will just go back in time a little bit. We did go to the voters last year and asked for additional funding for the library system. This is the first time since 2006 that we've done so. Our mill has been the same since then, and we lost by less than 1,200 votes. Of course, we've gained almost 90,000 people in the past 10 years here in Adams County, and what we're asking is an increase of 2.2 mil, which is the equivalent of $12.3 million a year, which actually goes to about $1.32 per $100,000 of actual value of a home per month for homeowners in the our service area here in Adams County. This funding would go for additional hours. 4 of our branches are actually closed on Mondays, which means less time that our kids here in our community have access to library and families have access to library. So that would increase hours. That would increase materials, that additional funding. That means more services for seniors, more services for kids, additional programming. We're also looking at the potential of building 2 new libraries as well. Yes. Any other questions that I can answer?
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Vote on. Close that vote, and CR 110 passes unanimously.
Thanks.
Okay, item 15, discussion items. Civic Center Master Plan Phase 1 implementation, September update. Eric?
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. Eric Enzi with the city's Planning and Development Department. I'm here to provide September's update for the Civic Center project and the new Recreation Center, Senior Center, and Performing Arts Theater. The design development package was completed, DDs is what we are calling these, was completed by the design team on August 15th, so fairly recently. And it is scheduled to be heard before you guys or presented to you guys along with pricing at the October 7th meeting. So you'll be seeing that coming up here within a matter of a couple weeks. That October 7th presentation will include the current pricing estimates, updated floor plans, and some of the preliminary exterior building materials as well as some interior finishes. So we're getting a little bit more into the specifics of the design. So we'll be presenting those to you for comments there on October 7th. What we are working towards at this time is the creation of what's called a guaranteed maximum price, a final guaranteed maximum price, FGMP, for the project. This project in itself is fairly complex in that the FGMP will be presented to you in 2 different packages. The first stage is for site improvements, so that includes the site infrastructure and what's known as horizontal improvements, so streets, those types of improvements on the site. The second stage will be for vertical improvements, which includes all costs associated with the building itself. Again, at the October 7th meeting, we'll bring forward the most updated cost estimate for the project. Following council's review of that estimate, staff will present the FGMP for the site improvements on October 14th, which is handled through an addendum to the city's contract with FCI, which is the general contractor for this project. We anticipate bringing forward the FGMP for the building, so the second FGMP, sometime in January or February of 2020 as the CD phase winds down. So in the meantime, staff is working with the design team on the construction document phase. That's the CD phase. And like I said, the completion of the CD phase corresponds and correlates with that building FGMP. So we'll be working towards that at the next stage. The final site plan package was submitted to the city's Planning Development Department for entitlement review back in August. So this package included the major site plan, as well as the preliminary and final plat, as well as rezonings for the site, which is known as an entitlement package. The Planning Commission reviewed both requests at their September 17th meeting. The Planning Commission approved the site plan. They're the final authority for site plan reviews in the Unified Development Ordinance. They also reviewed the preliminary and final plat, which you saw this evening, and recommended approval of that. Tonight's meeting here included all the final entitlements, so that's a nice step to get checked off the checkbox, so to speak, here, meaning that the site is fully entitled from a zoning and land use perspective. What that means is then the next phases are site work, engineering, civil documents, as well as construction documents. After the City Council selected the street names, as you recall, that process back in August, the new building has been addressed as 1 East Memorial Parkway, coordinating with the city grid and the new Memorial Parkway, which is the public street entering the site. The design team will conduct 2 more public outreach opportunities throughout the rest of the design phase. One of those would be for the senior center patio and the other for the indoor play area. So we'll be reaching out to the public, the seniors, as well as families and users throughout the community for input on those facilities. The city also contracted with the Source Marketing Group to coordinate the groundbreaking event. So this is currently on track to take place October 28th, which is a Monday, before council meeting that evening at 5 p.m. It'll be just out here on site. You'll start seeing some construction fencing and other things going up, and it'll be kind of in that construction area as a groundbreaking ceremony. Invitations for this event will be sent out to elected and appointed officials, staff, as well as community members who have been actively involved in the project. However, this is a very significant milestone for the project, so we are excited to share the invitation out to all of the public, anybody who wants to attend. Notification to the public will be publicized in the Connection and on the city's social media platform. So anybody, your neighbors, please tell them about it. They're all welcome to attend. It'll be a fun event. So please spread word. The project remains on schedule. We anticipate construction beginning after the FGMP for the site is approved in October. With that being said, you may start seeing some mobilization of the site beginning to take place, likely the first week in October. So this will be maybe some construction fencing. You may have noticed the construction sign that went up there that shows the proposed facility as well coming soon. So that's kind of exciting. At this point, that concludes staff's update this month. We'll be providing the next overall project update on October 28th at the next, or in about a month. However, your staff report also outlines a number of different steps that'll be brought forward to you in the next couple of weeks on various elements of this program, presentation of the DD, which is a big presentation, as well as the FGMP. So there's a lot going on right now, and we're moving forward pretty fast on this, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have on the project.
How much
much of the parking lot, if any of the parking lot that's out where we park, out that way, is any of that going to be blocked, moved, removed?
Great question. We are working through logistics right now on the site, but the parking lot just to the east of the facility, which is construction will be taking place just east of that. The first row of parking will be maintained during construction. The rest of the parking lot will be fenced off and will be part of the construction zone. So you'll start seeing that breakout happening here within the next couple weeks.
And it won't affect staff's ability to park or anything? Because most of them I know park upstairs.
There will be some logistics in the meantime in terms of parking. We will, like I said, we will still keep that portion of the lot open. There's still some staff park on the south side of the facility as well. In the far spaces, we try to keep those front spaces open for the public who comes to City Hall throughout the day, so we'll keep those available. Staff can still park there. And then we have the where the police department used to park on the east side of the building. So that will be open to staff as well.
Thank you.
Anything else? Nope. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a great evening.
Eric. All right, discussion item B, abandoned shopping carts follow-up. Brooke, join us.
Okay, now I get to pull it. I thought Heather was going to take this one. I'm just kidding.
We'll tag team it. How about that, Brooke?
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. In our study session that we had a few weeks back, wanted to report back, based on the time of the drafting of this memo, an update on where we've collected carts, how many, and also in the packet you'll see that I included the previous staff package information to kind of give you context. Also in the packet as attachment 2 is a map that details where the carts have been picked up and how many. I'd also point out that some of the carts do not have recognizable or discernible identification as to where they are from, so that's why when you look at the actual tabulations of each location, you may not see an actual specific vendor, and that's because the cart itself didn't have that information available to us. Since drafting of this, I asked Tom Carlson, our code supervisor, how many additional carts that we collected, and I believe it was either 6 or 9. My mind is failing me this evening, but I believe it was in that order of magnitude in addition to that. Based on where we're at right now, our recommendation on a staff level is to continue to monitor this in lieu of doing anything in addition, and continue to collect information and to see if this increases or if we more or less see the same level of impact that we've seen over the last 4 weeks.
Any questions for Brooke? Marcy?
Yeah, had to know that was coming. So I get that, and I guess I will just vote that I'm a little disappointed that that's where we're going to put it. I think our Ward 3 residents have expressed the issue. I'll encourage them to come again to our October 5th board meeting and express their concerns and issues with these carts landing in their front yard and it being their responsibility to get rid of them. I think that's really frustrating. I think if you are pulling through some of these, most of these that are in Ward 3 started in somebody's yard. And for me, I think that's just really frustrating. That's not something that our residents need to be dealing with. And you're pulling stats that are basically like a month and a half, and that's 29 carts in a month and a half. So times that by 12 months, I think it is a bigger issue, and I just hope that council continues to listen for that, and you'll probably see me back here as a resident after November.
Anybody else? I ditto that. I mean, it is a problem. How we solve it, who knows? This is first steps. Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you.
Mayor Esquivel, if I may, I'd just like to emphasize that I do think that this is a first step, and I think previously we did not have good data to work with. And so moving forward, I am committed to keeping a pulse on this and figuring out what we do need to do. Brooke and I had conversations about, you know, what could be something greater in terms of our response. And at this point, we feel like we're not there yet. That doesn't mean that we don't think it's an issue, that we're not acknowledging the residents impacted by this, but I think this is a first step. And so certainly, you know, encourage citizens to let us know when this happens. Our staff is going to be more proactive about making sure to pick up the carts when they see them out and about in the community. And so from my perspective, we will continue to keep a pulse on this issue and come back to council with some other form of a recommendation as we see the data shift, if we do, in an upward fashion.
Brings us to communications. I'm going to start with you, Jordan.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Well, I went to the Pirate Fest. I thought it was fantastic, very well attended. But that's after.
Right. We had, Becky and I held our Ward 2 meeting, and that was well attended, and I just wanted to thank staff for, they're always great. They always are aware of the questions, and they provided all the information needed. Amanda and Brooke were there, and actually, though Tom wasn't aware that he was going to speak, there was a lot of code questions, and so he was drawn into our little group, and he did a great job. So, thanks for that. I did attend the STEM lab ribbon cutting, and the mayor spoke. It was very interesting. The school is beautiful. Took a tour, and everyone there is excited about what's happening over there. So that's really good. And then lastly, had a booth at the Pirate Fest for the Historic Commission, and that was so much fun. And I think we had more people this time than we've had in the past. I mean, we had a lot of folks attend. Yeah, so it was great. And thank you again to all the staff when all the countless hours. I mean, we start setting up early Friday. Staff was there already doing it, you know, providing all the setup for everybody and helping everyone. And they were still there when we left at 7 o'clock on Saturday evening. So thank you very much. It was great.
I'm going to sound like a little parrot, but I think that was the best ward meeting we've had since I've been on council. It was a good one. And I think Tom deserves a special shout out, because I did send you that email, Heather, because he was just like Johnny on the spot, and nothing frazzled him. I mean, he took calls, or he took questions for a good, 15 minutes? Just one right after another, and he did really, really well. I wish I could say the same thing about Brooke.
Well, you can if you want to.
Brooke was great. Everybody was great. We had a really good attendance. A special shout out to Susan. She has mastered dry ice and newspaper and ice cream, because nothing melted and everybody was really happy about it. Pirate Fest was awesome. I mean, I don't think that you could ask for anything more from our staff than everything they do. They're just so wonderful at it. And everybody that I spoke to that day, and even, you know, yesterday, Sunday, and today, everybody just really loved it in the community. And it seems like it's getting bigger. So special props to Stephen for everything he does with that. And thank you to everybody else. I think that's all I have. Just a reminder that this Saturday, it is this Saturday that we're doing the Northglenn.
Celebrate Northglenn.
Celebrate Northglenn, right, at the theater. So that should be fun, too. I'm pretty excited about that.
Well, I had the extreme honor and pleasure of recognizing Joanne on her 20-year anniversary on Wednesday. Gave me 2 pages of notes on Joanne. I cut it down to 3 or 4 statements. But thank you, Joanne. At 20 years is a huge accomplishment. And I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
I had the pleasure of attending the STEM lab and speaking.
I was at Northeast 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and when I walked into STEM lab, all I could remember was the brick hallway. Everything else is totally changed. It is so beautiful. The exterior is wonderful. It looks like they really created a way in and out of there for parents. I don't know what it looks like in the morning, but the parking and the striping was to a T. I was very impressed. Congrats to them. I also presented at Malley Elementary School, I guess on the 18th, and these third graders wrote me some really interesting comments. Making laws and deciding how much money to give to each part of the government. How do you decide how much money to give to each part of the government? And what they meant by that, I'm sure, is departments. How do we allocate city funds to different departments? And I think most of them asked the same question, but they were just so awesome. I had 3 classes, 100 kids. I mean, it makes you want to go back to elementary school. As a student. No, they're great. Heather and Amanda and Debbie did a wonderful presentation on Friday on where we're going and how we're doing with the Civic Center Master Plan to the Adams County community. And it was just a short breakfast, but it was very well done. Kudos to you guys. I said it that day and I'll say it again. Without you guys, and not just those 3 people, but Kent and all your department heads, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing, accomplishing what we're accomplishing without your leadership and their hard work. So thank you. Meredith?
Well, let's see. I was honored to speak on behalf of the city at the Healing Hope Powwow, or Healing Hoop Powwow. I wrote the wrong word. That was amazing. The event was beautiful. Their traditions are just touching. It was a lovely day. I did walk away though, supporting their request to move the location. There were quite a few guests in wheelchairs that really did have a hard time getting to the site, and that was challenging. So if we could look into that, but overall the event was just beautiful. I also was able to cut the ribbon at KFC for their grand reopening and their 50th anniversary birthday along with the city, so that was really fun. That new location on North Glen is beautiful, so that was fun. I had commented right after they reopened, probably from here, that staff is so polite and courteous and their customer service is fantastic. So that happened again on Saturday. Again, Pirate Fest was amazing. Well attended, lots of cheer and smiles. Quick plug, Safe Street Halloween has already begun, the candy donation process. That is on the 26th of October. Huge event this year, so we need a lot of candy. So put that in there. And then I had a question. I have 2 different times and 2 different events for the Elks this Saturday. So I have on my calendar a sign dedication in the morning and a plaque at 11, but I also have a calendar invite that goes 11 to 12 for the plaque, but an email says it's 11 to 2. So could I get clarification on the Elks events on Saturday?
Yes, I'm happy to provide that now if you'd like.
Yeah.
Okay, there's 2 events on Saturday. There's the plaque unveiling at the former City Hall, known as the Elks Lodge, and that's from 11 to noon, correct, Grady? And then we have the Celebrate North Glen event from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Recreation Center.
Okay.
Later in the day.
8 o'clock event. Okay.
No.
Great.
Yes.
I was
My
just gonna be at
apologies.
the
I'll
Elks
double
all
check and
day.
see if we
It's
have
fine.
something wrong in the council calendar.
Can I ask a question about that real quick? So I seem to remember that the event is kind of a rolling, come as you want. Is the expectation that council is there from 4 to 7 p.m.? Are we, yes, can you help me understand what our role and our obligations are that evening?
Yes, and I have an email drafted to you for this too. I was going to send tomorrow, but I can tell you now. So the event runs from 4 to 7. It is a walkthrough event where you go from video to video to walk through the history of the city. There is one moment that I would like to capture with all of council there around 4:15, so close to the beginning. I don't anticipate that you will stay for the entire 3 hours unless you'd like to, but we do have a cake, and it's been historical at each of the 10-year anniversaries that there's a picture of council with the cake, so I'd like to do that if that's possible at 4:15. Anything else with that? It's okay.
Okay.
All right, a couple of things from me. So Julie and I will be hosting our ward meeting on October 5th from 10 to noon at the Justice Center. So we'd like to see everyone come out to that. I also attended the police swearing-in ceremony last week, along with a handful of other council members. It was 6 new officers that we swore in. So welcome to all of them, and excited to have them join us. I think Chief was pretty excited because we gained a previous fireman, and so he was interested in kind of moving him over to a police officer. And so that was great. I also wanted to just give a shout out to for Pirate Fest to our staff. Staff starts in the wee hours of the morning on Friday, getting that all set up as part of the Community Foundation. They make sure that they have us all set up and ready to be able to serve our rub to pirates, and they so appreciate that. And then they stay into the long hours of the night. I drove by, it was after 11 Saturday, and they were still out there. And so it doesn't go unnoticed, the amount of work that goes into that from staff, and so we greatly appreciate that. And I also just want to say it's just a testament as to how great that event is. This is my 5th year, it's the 5th year of the event, and you see this group of the same people who come out to the ball, the Pirate Ball on Friday night, and they are so excited and look forward to the event. We talked to one gentleman who drove, I think it was from Texas, and we have another family that's disappointed that they're moving to Texas, and hopefully they can come back and see us. And our mermaids came from Arizona this year, and really touted this is one of the best events that they participate in. So just a testament to the city in creating such a wonderful event that so many people come to that maybe don't live directly here in the community, but get to see how great we are. And then just one last item I wanted to mention. Thank you to council for giving support to the Anythink Library. I attended their library meeting in Bennett, which once a year they have their meeting in Bennett, and it was great to see how they are working with the schools, because they had this really small library in Bennett that is busting at the seams. And I encourage any of you residents or council to take a drive out and see their Bennett location. It's a really great opportunity, and just seeing their schools and their partnership of what they're doing. The school is directly across the street. It's very much similar to what they do here with the North Glen STEM program, in a partnership of being able to have the library, the librarians go over to the school and vice versa. They have students and staff from the school go over and partnership with a lot of the hands-on activities that go on in the library. So that's wonderful. They are full swing budget. As you know, there's the mill levy, so they are working on a budget that's an A and a B version, depending on if it passes. And then lastly, as many council members expressed 2 weeks ago, Sparkopolis was a big success in bringing that back. It is something that they are looking to at least do next year for sure. So stay tuned for a date for that. That's all.
All right. So first, congratulations to all of the staff, everybody involved in Pirates Fest. I unfortunately wasn't able to go, but it sounds like it was a fantastic success. I am curious if we've received any feedback from any of the businesses at Webster Lake Promenade around the parking situation, if they were negatively impacted with the increase of folks or not. So maybe that's something that we can check in with folks.
I can check in with Paula Jensen, our Management Services Director. For this year, I've not heard of any complaints, but let me check in with her. Okay. I do know that we received some complaints from SEL following, I believe it was Food Truck Carnival, and the police department as well as staff have reached out to them, and I believe we've addressed those complaints through increased signage and so forth. So really, we've been very proactive in notifying the shopping center retail area about when the event's upcoming and making sure that they know who to contact. And Debbie Tuttle, our Economic Development Manager, has also reached out to the businesses. And so I'll double check on Pirate Fest, but so far, as of today, but today's only Monday, I can certainly report back if there's any concerns.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Secondly, last year, you all may remember our City Council executing a letter to the Public Utilities Commission in support of Excel's plan to close a coal-fired plant, and then in support of their plan to decarbonize as a utility. And I was approached at that time by Conservation Colorado and asked if I would bring that letter to all of you, and we did ultimately sign on and send that letter in support of the plan to the Public Utilities Commission. And the thing that I'm bringing to you this evening is I was approached by Joan May, who's a former county commissioner, who's doing some work with the Colorado Sierra Club, and Tri-State, who provides power to United Power, so the area that is essentially our wastewater treatment facility, as well as a handful of residents up there, are going through what they call energy resource planning with the Public Utilities Commission. And essentially what I want us to do is send a letter, or at least ask staff to draft a letter and send it to the PUC supporting encouraging Tri-State to look at clean forms of energy as they're doing their energy resource planning. So not hugely different from what we did previously with Excel. But part of the reason I think this is so important is that there's a huge amount of energy that we're utilizing at the wastewater treatment facility. And as you all may have, if you're paying attention, you see that renewable energy is pretty cost efficient as opposed to the cost of utilizing coal energy as an energy source. And so when I'm thinking about us sending a letter to the Public Utilities Commission, first and foremost, I'm interested because obviously cleaner energy is better for the environment, it's better for our residents' public health, but secondly, there's an economic impact for our bottom line. So as they're doing this energy resource planning process, they're able to identify and utilize more cheaper resources that will ultimately impact the rates that we're seeing as consumers. And so I would just ask for support, again, for staff to draft a letter supporting the PUC and the rulemaking and asking Tri-State to generate and utilize more clean energy.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Heather, I'll connect with you more on the details, and then I just ask that the mayor execute the letter on our behalf. Okay, and then my final item is just a reminder that we're hosting Lauren and I are hosting our Ward 4 meeting on October 3rd, and all candidates for Ward 4 as well as the mayoral race are confirmed. We'll be over at Vantage Point High School, and we'll be in the cafeteria. The mingle will start from 5:30, go until 6 p.m., and then we'll be doing the Ward 4 candidates separate from the mayoral candidates. And each will have an hour for a forum, and so residents are welcome and encouraged to bring any questions that they have and we'll get through as many as we possibly can. And then I hope finally that the candidates will stick around so that if residents have a question that they want to ask that perhaps didn't want to bring up in a group, that they'll have the opportunity to do so. That's all for me this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Joanne?
I do have one item tonight. Tomorrow is National Voter Registration Day. So in honor of that, I wanted to share just some quick information. First, for anybody who may need to register to vote, I wanted to let everybody know that they have voter registration forms in both English and Spanish.
Thank you.
They're available online, and we also have the Spanish forms in the city clerk's office upstairs. So that is super handy to have. And then I wanted to share some information about voters who may not be too sure if they're eligible to vote in the election. So the first piece is related to individuals who do not have a fixed permanent residence, or that may be called homeless voters. Wanted to provide the information that if an individual is homeless, permanently resides in a recreational vehicle, or for whatever reason has no fixed permanent address, they may use an address that they regularly return to and have the intent to remain. So that address is referred to as a home base. It's a residential address, but as long as they have that address, they are eligible to register to vote. And then the second piece is regarding individuals who may be re-entering the community. So in Colorado, individuals are eligible to vote if they are currently on parole for a felony conviction, if they are detained or in jail awaiting trial or serving a sentence for a misdemeanor conviction. They are eligible if they are on bond and their criminal case is pending at the time of election. Individuals are also eligible to vote if they are on probation. And the last piece is in Colorado, an individual has the right to vote after they have served their sentence. And so this is the timing piece for that. The day an individual is released from detention or incarceration is the day that that individual's eligibility to register to vote is restored. The thing that folks need to remember is that they need to re-register to vote because their registration is canceled once they are incarcerated. So in Colorado, it's super handy to register to vote. You can hop online at govotecolorado.com and do it online. You can also visit a physical office like the city clerk's office. You can always contact us for other questions. The Secretary of State's office has a lot of FAQs. So please, for anyone listening or for neighbors or friends that you may have, do not hesitate to ask a question. Everyone is welcome in our office, and we would be more than happy to find the answer for you if it has to do with voter registration. So that's all. Thank you.
Your Manager Gar.
Thank you, Mayor Escabel. Starting in October edition of Connection, I'm going to start doing a monthly city manager column focused on highlighting a different operational area. So October's topic is going to be code enforcement with information reinforcing how residents can make a complaint, our staffing levels within code enforcement. I provide data on the percentages in terms of residential focus versus commercial focus and so forth. So each month I'll be picking a topic based on different operational area based on what I hear when I'm at ward meetings, talking with residents at different events and so forth. Also, Diana Wilson is our new communications director, and she will be starting her employment with the city on Monday. She's coming to us with a wealth of experience, 20 plus years of experience in local government communications, previously serving the cities of Lakewood, city of Westminster Fire, along with Jeffco Public Schools, and previously serving on the Lakewood City Council. So we're really excited to welcome her to North Glen and have her on board and hit the ground running with a lot of what we have envisioned in the 18-month communications plan, and would just like to thank Heather Grady for her service to the city on an interim basis. She's done a lot to jump in and help keep us afloat and really make sure that we're moving forward. So excited for Diana, and also thankful for the service that Heather Grady's provided to us. And that's all I have.
She was at our ward meeting last week, Diana was, and it was so nice to see her there. You know what I mean? I actually had to ask her when she was starting because it was such a big deal. You know, I just didn't expect to see her there, so I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, she also came Friday and Saturday to Pirate Fest.
I saw her.
So that was great. She dressed up on Friday.
Lori?
Nothing this evening.
Okay. Okay, so public invited to be heard. 3 minutes per speaker. Comments should be related to an item previously addressed by council during the meeting. Anybody here who would like to come forward? Okay. So we will adjourn and convene into executive session. What do we say, 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
We do need a motion and a second, though, for it.
You need a motion.
Right.
Read that executive session. Read.
Right.
Okay.
Right, but I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
Do we want to break or we don't want to break?
We have to break.
Well, we have to break because he has to take that. Okay. All right. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to section 4.5D of the City of North Bend Home Rule Charter for legal consultation and advice.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. John, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Let's see. I've closed it already, but it's a yes.
Okay.
Close that, I didn't see.
I'll close that vote, and the motion to adjourn to executive session passes unanimously.
Thank you. We're adjourned.
Hey, Ron.